Hi, welcome back. I'm a little bit sick right now, a little bit under the weather, have a cough, sniffle, a little bit of a sore throat, so sorry about that. But it does give me a little bit of free time to tell this story. A few months back, I promised subscribers I would tell this story when I briefly mentioned it in a different video. Now's your chance. And for my new subscribers, sorry, this isn't about Neo, but it is about an automobile maker in China. You might actually enjoy it too. Let's get started. White monkey jobs, what are they? Where do they come from? What do they entail? Well, for a humorous and quite thorough introduction to white monkey jobs, you can check out this video by Lawa86.
Foreigners like Richard from England even use it.
I am Richard from England, European General Agent of the Ginger Boss. I am a legitimate person.
Or you can just listen to me briefly introduce you to what they are. Most typically, they are day jobs given to white people in East Asia. Generally to stand around as a model or actor. The purpose in the case of models is to attract eyeballs, and in the case of a public speaker, to lend an air of credibility to the event or to the company. A common example might be for you to get paid a day fee to go to an event and pretend to be a CEO or some exec in a company. You put on a suit, you give a kind of a nonsense speech. It doesn't really matter because people can't really speak English very well anyway, and then you leave before too many people can ask too many questions. White monkey jobs don't really even need to be white people. As long as you look foreign, you can probably get a white monkey job. They're just called white monkey jobs because that's what they're called. Being white is an advantage, just like most of the world. White skin, for unfortunate reasons, is still considered an advantage. Technically, you're not allowed to work more than one job in China. Like if I have a work visa, I can only work for the company that is providing me the work visa. I'm not allowed to take any side jobs. Also, if I'm on a, for example, a tourist visa or a student visa, I'm not allowed to work any job. So most white monkey jobs are illegal, technically. I want to just briefly give you that background of what a white monkey job is for two reasons. One is because I want to briefly illustrate the advantages of being a foreigner in Asia and in particular China are. And secondly, because I want you to know what a typical white monkey job entails. Now, I worked a job legally, just to be clear, I worked a job legally 4 to 5 years ago in Beijing. I wouldn't personally call the job that I did a white monkey job for a number of reasons, which I'll go into at the end, but you can also kind of consider it to be a white monkey job. I definitely wouldn't have got the job if I wasn't a foreigner and didn't look like this, just to be clear. Now, before we get started really into what I did, I signed a non-disclosure agreement as an NDA, and unfortunately I cannot tell you a lot of specific things. The NDA was quite extensive. It says that I cannot name the companies that were involved, I cannot name what the specific department I worked in was, I cannot name any identifying details about the project, nothing of the sort, etc., etc. Even some things that the NDA failed to specify, I still am going to avoid talking about, just to be on the safe side, so please understand. After I quit my first job in China, way back in 2015, I decided to register my own company in Shanghai, and I did that in order to transfer my work visa to myself, so I didn't have to be like employed by anybody else, and so I could remain living in China legally. Now, the company that I registered was a service company, and according to Chinese regulations, at least at that time, you had to specify what industry your company was going to be in, up to 5 industries actually. And so I had an agent or a consultant that helped me do this. He recommended definitely do all 5 industries, just so you're more flexible in what you can actually legally do. So one of those 5 industries was consulting. So that's the background for how I was eligible for this job. But it's been so long now that I can't really remember how I got contacted about this job. All I remember is that someone contacted me on WeChat and said they were looking for a foreigner who could work a job in Beijing for about a month, legally, and who could produce an invoice. Through my company, I definitely could produce an invoice. Obviously, I'm a foreigner, so oh yeah, that's me. And I didn't have anything to do because I had quit my job, so I could easily go to Beijing. Awesome. Okay, so the company called me. They said they're a car company, an international brand, well-known brand, everybody knows who they are. They said, we're looking to hire an outside consultant for a brief time. They told me about the project and the salary and asked if I was available. So then they did a brief job interview. They did a conference call with some people in charge of the project. And I think it was a week later or so, maybe 2 weeks, I was in Beijing ready to start work. Okay, so the job was this. A major non-Chinese automobile maker had previously entered into a multi-year partnership with a software company from South Asia. When I say South Asia, you need to think like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, that sort of place, okay? So they were nearing the end of their software development contract. And the contract was for some little bits and bops of a software program for the automaker for the car. Now this South Asian company They had repeatedly failed to deliver on key milestones, and the project was coming to an end, and they were behind schedule. They had no functioning product that they were supposed to deliver to the automaker. So obviously the automaker was extremely unhappy with the software developer and the work that they were producing. They wanted to have like an all hands on deck, like a crunch, like a sprint to fix all these bugs, get the product to be in a usable state, and just hopefully to make this project that had been years in the making a success. A couple of other things to note real quick. The automaker obviously was super duper unhappy. They were not satisfied with the work that this developer had done so far. The relationship with the software developer was extremely fraught. The tensions were super high. I could feel it the whole time, especially between the two leads, the lead from the automaker and the lead from the software development company. Their relationship was not good. And then another thing is they had previously tried to like meet and have an all hands on deck sort of thing. I think it was a few months before, maybe half a year before, to try to again right the ship and get the project going in the right direction. But that was a failure. It didn't work. So they were doing this again with just months before the final deadline. They were just trying to get this project back on track. The entire team from South Asia country came to Beijing. It was a big group. I think it was like 12 people or something working on this project from their country, and a lot of people in Beijing working on it too. So now you're probably saying, well, Eric, why in the heck were you there? You're not a software developer or obviously a car automaker or nothing like that. I was there for two reasons. The first was to be a neutral third party that could act as a go-between. The previous time the companies met face-to-face, there was no neutral third party, there was no go-between. It was just the two companies coming together and working and trying to crunch this out. And from my understanding, both sides were constantly butting heads at that time. There were arguments about how to make this product actually functional. And again, from my understanding is this next time that they met, the software company from South Asia requested a neutral third party, and then the company in Beijing is the one that actually contacted me and hired me. So I'm supposed to be neutral. However, for this 3-week project, I was actually there 4 weeks. The first week I was there, the Beijing company prepped me about everything, told me about the project, and they also made it kind of clear by some things they said and some ways they treated me very well that they wanted me to be on their side, even though I was neutral. But I mean, we don't need to talk about that. Okay, so and then the other reason I was there is because these two teams have been having quite extreme communication difficulties. So basically they wanted me to be a translator. However, the company in South Asia, they can speak English. The Chinese people, they also can all pretty much speak English. So I wasn't supposed to translate like Mandarin Chinese into Hindi or something, for example, or vice versa, right? I was meant to basically translate like South Asian English into neutral English so the Chinese people could understand, and vice versa. And again, just so we're perfectly clear, when I'm talking about South Asian, I'm talking about like Abu from The Simpsons kind of accent. Like, people can understand them, but for some reason, a lot of Chinese people cannot understand South Asian accents. Don't ask me why, I don't know. And then finally, my last task was just basically to keep notes, keep meeting minutes, and keep everybody on track. However, each side had their own assistants who were also taking notes and doing the same sort of thing I was doing. So this really wasn't like a big part of my job in the end, but I did also do that. A few times they did use my notes and use my meeting minutes to kind of confirm or compare things that they had slight disagreements about. But other than that, I was mainly there to keep order and to make some words clear, some translation. So basically this is what I did for 3 weeks, right? For 3 weeks, every morning we'd come in, the two sides would meet, they would go over like what their goals were for the day, they'd go over like a long-term schedule, like they had a list, I remember, like small fixes, medium fixes, and big fixes. I'm not a software developer, but I do remember they had like what they would actually do for the program and like how much manpower they would need, how many hours, how many days they would need. So they had this all mapped out. So every day they would go over this, they would hash out, are we going to do the small fixes today? Are we going to work on, who's going to work on these big fixes? And then after our morning meeting, they would go and they'd crunch hard through the day, just working, coding, doing their software developer stuff. Both sides would be working on it. And then they would usually come back to meet. Maybe a brief meeting after lunch, but definitely at the end of the day, we'd have a final meeting, wrap up everything we did, our goal for the next day, that sort of thing. Normal, typical stuff. But there were long days. They were from morning until usually late at night, maybe 8 or 9 o'clock at night. They were really trying to get this thing out the door. Okay, so to be completely transparent about everything here, as much as I can, these two groups of people, they could understand each other. Like, I would say more than 90%, probably closer to 98%. I remember there were a few times where like they couldn't catch the accent a little bit, and I would just clarify like maybe 1 or 2 words. But for the most part, they had no problem communicating, even though like I was told I'm going to be there being like a neutral translator. That part of my job also really wasn't that important. The main thing that I was actually there doing was being a neutral third party. And even then, they didn't really need that, I don't think. Probably it was good they had it, but they didn't really need it. A few times they would argue and discuss kind of heatedly how this project should go or what they were going to do. But for the most part, like I wasn't going to break up a fight, and they weren't going to fist fight anyway. They were just, two companies that have their vision and have a plan, and they each have their own way to do it. So for the most part, I really didn't have like a ton of things to do, to be clear. It was probably good I was there, but not vital. And again, to be perfectly transparent, probably more times than like the Chinese or the other company couldn't understand each other, I had trouble understanding. Mainly because like I'm not a programmer, I'm not a developer. I don't, there's some words that I don't understand or some concepts that I don't understand about this stuff because that's not my profession. So at times I was like have to like look up words and try to figure out what's actually happening. So, oh well, it's fine. Basically, at the end of the project, I had to write a report summarizing the accomplishments, help them formalize their future milestones and their timeline moving forward. But they did all that. I just compiled it into a report and then presented it to both sides as like a again a neutral third party. So for this job, for 3 weeks of actual work every day in the office doing this work with these two companies, plus 1 week prior to the South Asian company arriving. So 4 weeks total of work, 1 month in Beijing. I got paid 60,000 RMB, about 10,000 US dollars. However, I did have to pay for my lodging. I booked an apartment for a month. That cost me something like 4,000 or 5,000 RMB. And then I had to pay for my flights, my food. All my expenses were paid by myself. Plus, because I had to issue them an invoice, I actually had to pay tax on that as well. So at the end of the day, I believe I got like 45,000 RMB around there, maybe 7,000 bucks. Still not bad for a month of work, right? And at the time, it was perfect for me because I just kind of quit my job. I was planning on taking a year off of work, so that was really a nice little nest egg. All right, finally, why is this a white monkey job, and why is it maybe not a white monkey job? So I'd classify it as a white monkey job because the actual work was very basic. Like anybody with some social skills, semi-functioning brain maybe, and a couple suits could do this job. Like actually could do it. The work involved was not complicated. All that was required of the actual job skills was to be a foreigner, probably ideally white, have basically a neutral accent, and be able to take notes. I'm sure there's millions and millions and millions of people that can do this job. Probably billions of people that can do this job. That's the case for making it a white monkey job. Now, the case for it being not a white monkey job, I would say, is because one, it was a legal job. I actually had to have a business to do this. Another reason is it paid obviously quite well. Most white monkey jobs, you get paid 500 or 1,000 kwai for a day and you're done. I got paid quite a lot of money for 3 or 4 weeks of work. Also, it's not really a white monkey job because it wasn't like a job on the weekend. It wasn't one day. It took a full month of my time. And lastly, the reason why it might not be a white monkey job is because actually I didn't really need to pretend to be something I'm not. I actually had a business, a license that said I was a consulting company and I did consulting. So, that's what my company did. So there you go. I guess if you made it this far, what's your take on that? Would you consider that a white monkey job? Have you done a white monkey job in China or Asia yourself? Did you know about these jobs? Did you know that there was these kind of opportunities in Asia? There are actually a lot of these kind of jobs in China. As a matter of fact, this weekend in Sichuan, I've been asked to do a white monkey job. I haven't 100% committed to it yet. The pay is quite low. It's very different from doing a job in Beijing. It's 300 kwai for 2 hours, so about 45 bucks. But it will also be very easy. I just need to go show up to an event, basically. So I'll probably do it. And I'll try to make a vlog or film it for you guys so you can see what a white monkey job will entail. One thing that kind of makes me laugh about this kind of job is that, so this is a foreign company, right? A foreign company, not a Chinese company, a major international automaker, outsourcing their software development to China, and then China outsources their software development to South Asia. And I'm not in the software business. I do have some friends that are maybe game developers or do software. And this is kind of how it works all the time. These companies, they, billion-dollar companies, multi-billion-dollar companies, they have your car software programmed by some guy in New Delhi, for example. But it's like step to get there. It's very interesting. That's it for now, I guess. If you found this interesting, you like this video, please make sure you give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And I'm happy to share more stories of China like this in the future. Just let me know. All right, take care, guys. Bye-bye.